Hey guys, I'm Sam, and I'm the creator of an indie manga called Ye Old Treehouse. I've been publishing it for a little over a year now, and across 19 chapters, it's racked up over 60,000 views on different platforms. When I finished my 15th chapter, I knew I wanted something to change. I wasn't unhappy with all the work I'd done up until that point, but I knew I had more in me. I wanted my third volume to feel like a genuine leap forward and not just more of the same that I had been doing, because I want to be a pro someday. The funny part about this is I already knew exactly where to start. By that point, I had already spent months watching. Not just drawing, not just writing, but actually really observing, studying other manga, noticing the kinds of lines that I liked and the kind of character arcs that hit me emotionally. And there's one skill that I learned from all of that that helped me the most as a comic creator. More than anatomy, more than page layout, it's observation. Not just seeing, but really intentionally looking. And in this video, I want to talk about how observation has helped me improve both my art and my writing, and why I think it's the only skill every comic creator needs. Now, there is a little hyperbole with that, folks, but this is YouTube. So let's get into it. First, let's start with observation in art. At some point, I stumbled on a manga called Drunk Bullet. This was one of the newer manga that was published by Shonen Jump, and unfortunately it was axed, not unlike a majority of things in Shonen Jump, but it had some of the best line work that I had seen in a long time, or at least line work that I enjoy. There was this analog, sketchy, almost textured feel to the hatching and the line work that really stood out to me. And I thought, oh yeah, this is it. This is the look that I want to bring into my own work. So I started studying it, and I didn't just copy it, I really observed it. I looked at how the mangaka drew their lines, how they placed their hatching, and how they used all of those things to set different moods and create texture in their work. And on top of looking at Drunk Bullet, I also looked at smaller Japanese magazines like G Fantasy, Square Enix, and Gangan Joker, particularly because those are a lot similar to my own work. A lot of artists in those smaller Japanese magazines have really distinctive line work, and I really enjoyed how they portray their characters in their work. So once I had a feel for it and a genuine understanding through observing it, I started kind of experimenting. I went looking for particular brushes on Clip Studio that had that real analog texture and feel, because I knew that's what I wanted. So I drew a test page using my own characters. This is actually for chapter 16. And the moment that I finished that first test page, I saw an instant level up. And all I really did was change my brush and rethink my line approach to match the feel that I personally liked in Drunk Bullet. It didn't make my work look exactly like Drunk Bullet, but it gave my manga this visual polish and clarity that I had been hoping for. And I got there just by observing. Not guessing, not watching a million YouTube tutorials, but really observing the work that I liked. And that's the power of it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or go on hours-long YouTube tutorial binges every time you hit a wall. Sometimes you just haven't found the technique that works with your personal style yet. And observation is how you start discovering those tools. At one point I used to think that I wasn't good enough at art to make a comic, and that I had, hit some kind of a wall that I wouldn't get past. But really, I just hadn't found the techniques that worked with the way that I draw. And I haven't really found, or I hadn't at the time, really found the look that fit my story. But once I started paying closer attention to what I liked in others' work and being honest about what wasn't working in mine, I started getting better, and I started getting better fast, to the point where every recent chapter has been better than the last one. And let me tell you, that may sound like a good thing, but when the growth is too quick, it's kind of jarring a little bit. That's why I say that observation doesn't replace tutorials or fundamentals. Of course, you still need those, but it really supercharges everything else. It turns your guesswork into intention, and that is truly what makes you grow. So one really important thing on the art side here is you must observe your weaknesses. And I know that's a tough thing for us as artists, because we're so critical of ourselves. It's like we don't need to think about what we do bad. We already know what we do bad. But When you have that observational skill to see what you do that's not so great, you can make intentional improvements on those specific things. I'll give you an example. So, in the beginning of my manga Ye Olde Treehouse, I drew eyes a very specific way. I didn't really use any highlight or shadow or shading in the eyes because I was just concerned with speed. I wanted to get through to a certain point in my story, and that was just the easiest way and the most convenient way to draw the eyes. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I still think it's cute and I like it. But I knew if I wanted to get to the level of the artists that I saw in like Square Enix Gangan or G Fantasy, I would have to make some big improvements on the front of how I draw certain things like eyes, which I think are one of the most important features on the characters. So I studied, I observed what I liked about how those mangaka drew eyes in their characters, and I implemented it in my own work. So having the skill to be able to see where you may fall short and observe what you like in others' work, that's one big way to grow. Let's talk about observation in writing, because folks, this is not just an art channel, this is a comic making channel as a whole, and you can't make a comic without writing. So observation is not just about art, it's just as important in writing, and in fact, it's the number one thing that I feel has helped me create characters and stories that feel really emotionally grounded. So I'm going to go on my Baldur's Gate rant. A big turning point for me was when I played Baldur's Gate 3. I paid a lot of attention to the writing, not just the plot. I paid attention to how the game made me feel. And one character in particular that stood out to me was Astarion. Yes, I know, very original. Everybody loves Astarion. He's introduced as kind of a snarky, morally questionable, even rude at times, but we love him anyway. He keeps you at arm's length. He gets defensive when you ask about his past. But over time, as you build trust with him, he starts to let you in. He even asks for your help, not just to move forward in life or deal with, the current catastrophic situation that you're in, but also to confront the trauma from his past that's still gripping him. And when I stepped back and I observed that character arc, how the character is introduced, the guardedness, the reveal of his past, and the growth of this character, the change, I realized that I really love this kind of character because the emotional payoff feels really earned. You worked to see the vulnerability in this character, and that's what makes it so satisfying when you get to that point. That pattern has stuck with me, and it made me ask, what if I could give my readers that same feeling? Not just by copying Astarion, but by observing the emotional structure of his arc and seeing how I could apply it to my own work. And one of the characters I'm currently doing that with in Ye Olde Treehouse is Ender. On the surface, he's calm and disciplined, he's a commander, he has a lot of authority, but beneath all that, he's carrying something really heavy. He's literally sharing his body with a shadow spirit that he can't tell anyone about because it might make him a danger to the people that he's trying to protect. And Ender's arc, similar to Astarion's, is about whether he can allow himself to be vulnerable. Whether he can share the truth with people he cares about, like Rue, who's closer to him than anyone else. And for me, crafting that kind of arc wasn't about trying to be deep, but it came from paying attention to the emotional structures that hit me in other stories. And now when I watch or read or play anything at all, I'm constantly taking mental notes. Why did this moment hit me the way it did? Why did that interaction feel so satisfying? Because if I can understand what stirred me emotionally, I think I can begin to replicate that same feeling for my readers through my own characters, in my own world, and in my own story. So here is the main takeaway. When you're reading a comic or playing a game or watching a show, don't just absorb it for entertainment's sake, but observe it and pay attention to how it makes you feel and ask yourself, why does it make you feel this way? Why did that character make your heart race? Or why did that thing they said stick in your head? Or when you're reading a manga, what is it about this panel that really makes my brain or my heart tickle? Why did that scene feel so heavy? When you observe with intention, you start to actually collect tools, not just inspiration. You learn what works, and then you can start to reverse engineer the feelings that you want your own audience to have. And that's how my manga Ye Olde Treehouse has grown. I'm incredibly proud of where it started, but I'm even prouder of how far it's come. And that growth and that evolution, It all started by slowing down and just paying attention. So, if you are making a comic, or if you want to make one and you kind of feel a little stuck, or you feel maybe you're not improving fast enough, just remember that maybe you don't need to watch a million art tutorials. Maybe you just need to start looking at the things you enjoy more closely. You don't have to master everything all at once. You don't have to be born, a genius artist. But if you can build your observation muscle and really train yourself to look and listen deeply, I promise you your growth will accelerate. And if my work or this video helped you in any way, thank you so much, because I'm also walking this path along with you and I just want to share what I feel like I've learned along the way. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope maybe there was a little nugget somewhere in there to help you out. If you're interested in my manga Yield Treehouse, chapter 19 is coming out in like 2 days, a day, and it'll be up on Global Comics and yieldtreehouse.com if you want to support. Leave your comments down below. I'm actually curious to know, how many of you agree? Do you think observation is a key skill, or is there something else that came to your mind? I would love to know what you all think about that. And until next time, bye.